Sudan, a nation in northeast Africa, is grappling with a devastating humanitarian crisis. This crisis has been years in the making, rooted in deep-seated political, social and economic issues that have plagued the country for decades. The current situation is a culmination of these long-standing problems, now exacerbated by recent events. A brutal conflict, ignited in April 2023, has plunged the country into chaos. This conflict has not only disrupted daily life, but has also led to widespread destruction of infrastructure, leaving many without access to basic necessities. Millions of Sudanese civilians are caught in the crossfire. They face unimaginable suffering, with countless families torn apart and communities destroyed. The human toll is staggering, with reports of widespread violence, displacement, and a severe lack of resources. The conflict stems from a power struggle between two military factions. This struggle for control has led to a vicious cycle of violence, with neither side willing to back down, further entrenching the country in turmoil. They are the Sudanese Armed Forces, or SAF, and the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces, known as RSF. Both factions have significant military capabilities and have been engaged in fierce battles, causing widespread devastation. The violence has triggered mass displacement, acute food insecurity, and a healthcare system on the brink of collapse. Refugee camps are overflowing, and many are struggling to find enough food and medical care. The international community is grappling with how to respond. Various organizations and countries are trying to provide aid, but the scale of the crisis is overwhelming, and efforts are often hampered by the ongoing conflict. There are calls for increased aid and intervention. Humanitarian groups are urging the global community to step up their efforts, emphasizing the urgent need for more resources and coordinated action to alleviate the suffering. The situation demands urgent attention. Without immediate and sustained intervention, the crisis will continue to escalate, leading to even greater loss of life and further destabilization of the region. The fate of millions hangs in the balance. The world must act now to prevent further tragedy and to support the people of Sudan in their time of need. The roots of the current conflict lie in Sudan's tumultuous political history, a history marked by decades of instability and power struggles. Years of authoritarian rule under Omar al-Bashir, who was ousted in 2019, sowed the seeds of unrest. His regime was characterized by corruption, human rights abuses, and economic mismanagement, which left the country in turmoil. After al-Bashir's removal, a fragile power-sharing agreement was established between the military and civilian leaders. This agreement was meant to guide Sudan towards democracy, but it was fraught with challenges and mistrust from the start. The collapse of this agreement ignited the current crisis, leading to widespread violence and instability. The streets of Khartoum and other cities have become battlegrounds, with civilians caught in the crossfire. The Sudanese Armed Forces, led by General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, and the Rapid Support Forces, commanded by Mohamed Hamdan Dagalo, are now vying for control. Both factions have significant military capabilities and are determined to assert their dominance. The RSF, with its origins in the notorious Janjaweed militias, has been accused of widespread human rights abuses, particularly in the Darfur region. Their brutal tactics have drawn international condemnation. The conflict is further complicated by deep-seated ethnic tensions and regional power dynamics. Various ethnic groups have their own grievances and aspirations, adding layers of complexity to the already volatile situation. The ongoing conflict has created a humanitarian catastrophe of staggering proportions. The death toll continues to rise, with estimates exceeding 130,000 civilians killed. Millions have been displaced internally and across borders. Food insecurity has reached unprecedented levels. Over 26 million Sudanese, half the population, face acute hunger. Over 1 million are on the brink of famine. The healthcare system is in shambles, hospitals have been bombed, medical supplies are scarce. The conflict has exacerbated existing vulnerabilities, pushing the country to the brink. The conflict in Sudan shows no signs of abating. The situation remains dire as both sides continue to engage in fierce battles, causing widespread devastation and loss of life. Recent clashes between SAF and RSF forces have intensified, with both factions vying for control over strategic locations. The fighting has escalated, leading to more casualties and destruction. These clashes are particularly fierce in key states like Blue Nile and White Nile. These regions have become hotspots of violence, with both sides trying to gain an upper hand. Both sides claim victories, but the reality on the ground is one of continued bloodshed. The aftermath of battles leaves behind a trail of destruction, with homes and infrastructure reduced to rubble. The RSF controls significant portions of the capital, Khartoum, and western Sudan. Their presence is marked by numerous checkpoints and patrols, asserting their dominance in these areas. The SAF holds onto areas in the north, east, and parts of central Sudan. Their strongholds are fortified, and they continue to resist RSF advances with determination. Neither side appears capable of achieving a decisive military victory. The conflict has reached a stalemate, with both forces entrenched in their positions, unable to make significant gains. This stalemate prolongs the suffering of civilians trapped in the conflict zones. Thousands have been displaced, seeking refuge in camps, while many others continue to live in fear and uncertainty. The international community's response to the crisis in Sudan has been marked by a mix of limited action and deep concern. The UN Security Council, often paralyzed by geopolitical divisions, has struggled to find a unified voice. A group called Aligned for Advancing Life-Saving and Peace in Sudan, or ALPS, has emerged to coordinate global efforts. ALPS aims to halt the fighting, protect civilians, and provide humanitarian assistance. However, the scale of the crisis demands a far more robust and coordinated response. The flow of weapons into Sudan continues, fueling the conflict. Since the conflict's eruption on April 15, 2023, Sudan has witnessed a horrifying surge in violence. Over 8,109 political violence events and more than 24,850 fatalities have been recorded. Khartoum and North Darfur are the epicenters of this violence. Explosions, remote violence and battles are the most common forms of violence. The SAF launched a significant offensive in Khartoum in October 2024, pushing the RSF into a defensive posture. However, the conflict's trajectory remains uncertain. The human cost continues to climb. The crisis in Sudan demands urgent international attention and action. The world cannot stand idly by as millions face starvation, displacement and death. A ceasefire is paramount to allow for the delivery of humanitarian aid. The international community must pressure the warring factions to engage in meaningful dialogue. Accountability for human rights abuses is crucial. The future of Sudan hangs in the balance. The world must act now to prevent further suffering and avert a catastrophic humanitarian